welcome to Get Messy. I'm your host, Maddie, and today I get to sit down with my dear friend and incredibly thoughtful creative with a heart of gold, Flannery Maney. This episode feels like one of those long, late-night conversations where you cover everything from career confusion to life purpose to the weird technical glitches that always seem to hit right when you're trying to record something meaningful. Flannery and I dive into what it really means to define yourself when your career and your life don't fit neatly into one box. We talk about authenticity, the pressure to perform, and why honoring your individuality can feel both terrifying and liberating. She shares her journey through vocal challenges, how that shaped her identity, and the people and moments that have helped her stay grounded and inspired. We also unpack big life lessons, recognizing red flags, setting boundaries without guilt, and navigating the messy space between who you thought you'd be and who you're becoming. We talk about friendships, Paris stories, the creative process, mentorship, and how easy it is to lose yourself in the pursuit of traditional success, and how important it is to find your way back. This conversation is vulnerable and full of the kind of reflections that only happen when two people who really know each other sit down and talk about the complexities of being human. Without further ado, please welcome the wonderful and wise Flannery Maney. Hi, Flan. Hi. Welcome to Get Messy.
I spent an hour and a half undoing my messy stuff for this podcast, just in looks, not in personality.
I was going to say, I was like, girl, let your freak flag fly. That's what this is all about. I'm going to do an intro of you before the episode actually is, but so people will get a little taste of who you are. Any important snippets that you want to just like lead us off with?
Yes. I think out of all the questions brought up to me before this was the one that made me the most nervous. I think as a populace, there's a lot of pressure to sort of define ourselves. And I don't relate to that. Like, I think I actually go around in my life making decisions so I don't have to find a definition of myself, which is like a weird thing to say. Like, I have a lot of different things that I do for money. I have a lot of different things that I do for just artistic pursuits. I have a lot of different interests. I have a lot of different facets. But yeah, I guess the big overarching one is that I'm a writer and I work in LA and I work in Hollywood and in the industry. But yeah, I also write poetry and books and,
You
trying to
sing.
make more intellectual
great
property. I
singer.
sing despite the fact that my voice is suffering all the time.
Yeah, you're going through a moment with your voice, which I'm sure there's like some sort of spiritual meaning. You know how there's always those books where it's like, if it's this, it's because of this, right? Like if your toe hurts, you have a problem moving forward. Like, I don't know, something like that.
I don't know. And I think it's probably overuse for 12 years of just constantly using my voice and not using it in the right way. Like you and I have both used the same vocal coach, and like a lot of who I am and have been for such a long time is voice and communication. And I think it just caught up with me this year. And something that, like, when I first was having really bad vocal issues, I decided that I was going to audition for a play, just like make myself the least comfortable that I can be. Yeah, but then I actually had to do it, and I was like, "Oh no!" But
Talk about like good manifestation though, because you and I were on the phone and you're like, I think I want to do more theater. And then that was like the first audition you went to and you booked the damn play.
yeah, it was great. I mean, it was like one of the coolest things I've done. But yeah, I had to create a character that was completely in my upper register, which kind of made sense for the character. Like, it was a character that was always hiding, so it made sense for me to like use a voice mask. But yeah, like I'm trying to hold myself accountable to my real voice, even if that real voice is quite weak. I don't want to do the interview like this, even though it'd be so much easier. I want to be in my real voice. But it's damaged. And I thank you and I thank your audience for understanding.
We're a lot of creators here who utilize, or business entrepreneurs who use their voice for the content they're creating or sales calls. That's so, okay, question for you about that plan. So do you naturally talk in a higher register? So even though this is like your real dropped in voice, you're actually utilizing a muscle you don't typically use because you more
Yes.
naturally speak? Got you. Okay.
Yes. And I think when I was younger, it was so much easier for me to be like, "Hey, I'm 20 and I'm new and la, 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 I'm cute." And it was like only through the process of getting to know myself and like understanding who I authentically am that I realized that I actually talk down here. And it's not me push. It's just, yeah, it's a piece. I mean, I think the other piece of it is like when I was teaching, you can't talk like this, and have people hear you. You have to be like, kids, line up, like
Sit
it
down.
needs
Yeah.
to 20 kids. I think I probably have some sort of damage on nodes, although a lot of my friends are like, you just need to learn how to use but I can feel it drop out in a certain register. And so I'm going to go to an ENT and get a little scopy,
Get a little
little
look. Yeah.
scope. Yeah.
Little scope. And I think the first question being the most difficult question to answer, I agree with you, Flan, because I think that it's like kind of an identity question, weirdly. So it's like very simply like, who are you? What do you do? And I think we define so much of ourselves by what we do in an unhealthy way, I think. And so, for instance, like the second that I started making more money with voiceover, that's what I would lead with. Because if people had any sort of like backup questions, I was like, well, I have so much that I could talk about with voiceover. And like, yes, we could talk about the acting I was doing or the writing I was doing or the projects Corinne and I was making or, all this stuff. But I was like, ooh, it feels like the easiest thing to lead with because there's the most like to back it up, so to speak.
Yes, in a monetary way. It's not just about like, oh, I had this great meeting. I'm going to ask a follow-up question. When you report back to the Midwest about, it's always about what is financially happening. It's never about like, oh, I had a really good pitch. I had a really good meeting. I did the 1% today.
Oh, it's like if you do 1% a day, if you're just focused on getting better
Yeah.
or taking 1% step forward or getting 1% better.
Yeah, it's never about that. It's always about the outcome and what it looks like. And I think I am so anti that being from the Midwest. I have nothing to prove to anybody. In fact, like I find more identity in the 1% than I do in this is what I've done today and give me the money. Like it's because it's not about money. It's about the art.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, because again, we're this culture that's like, oh, are you being as productive as you possibly can? And are you optimizing every hour of your day? Like, it's so overwhelming. Or what are the results that we seek so much validation in the results? Because again, we both grew up in the Midwest. I had a conversation with my mom yesterday and we were talking about me going back to grad school. And she's like, yeah, I was thinking the other day, like, what if you didn't go to like what if you essentially went to high school and like did your SATs and ACTs and went to college? Like, I wonder if this would have been the path that you were on. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I have no clue because like that's not what I did. And if anything, I was like, I think so much of what I've done as an actor, as a writer, as a creator, as a voiceover artist is helpful. I'm a much better listener. Like, I'm very present. I'm very curious. Like, there's so many skills that are very transferable into the things I'm learning in grad school. So I'm like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm like, I arrived here exactly when I was supposed to.
It's also like it has shaped who you are as a person. It has shaped your character. Like you have the resilience to start a business, to start a podcast, to go to grad school, all of that, because you've had to put yourself out there in an industry of insurmountable rejection, like day after day of rejection. That has shaped your future. That shaped the career you're going to have. And who I'm going to bring up right now is Taine. Taine.
Tell the people who Taine is.
Maddie and I went to Paris, which was our wonderful romantic friend trip that solidified us as best friends. Everything we could have ever wanted. And we stayed with this woman. Maddie, I'm going to let you take it from here. And then I'll tell you why I brought it up.
Okay. Flannery did all of the planning. So essentially, I was supposed to go to Paris and Ireland with my grandma for my 25th birthday trip. It was like her trip to me, and I was like planning it. And then on my 25th birthday, she abruptly told me we are not going to go to Paris and Ireland, and she was having second thoughts about it.
Grandma!
I know, which was fine because I was also secretly like freaking out, but like wanted to go. And then Flannery was like, I'm going to Ireland for my birthday with my dad and my brother, and then I'm going to Paris.
Wow, good memory. It was for the trip was for my dad's birthday, but it happened to be my birthday on the trip.
Makes sense.
Why do I need to specify this? Anyway, go on.
Specificities are important. Details are important. She was like, I'm trying to find someone to go to Paris with me. And it was like a month before, maybe not even. It was like, there wasn't that much time. And I was like, I will go to Paris with you. And you're like, what? You will? And I was like, absolutely. So Flannery pretty much planned everything, which was delightful. She found this great Airbnb that was bunk beds, which I'm like, why is it so cheap and why is it available? Because it was bunk beds and no one wants to sleep in bunk beds. And the house was gorgeous. Like when you think of a Parisian, like open French windows into like the beautiful Parisian streets, and there's bars and restaurants and clothing stores underneath us. Like it was so spectacular and dreamy. And we were in this house with this wonderful French woman named Taine, who I think is like a famous sculpturist.
We were calling her Taine for a lot because it's Taine.
She did not correct us once. And we had multiple lengthy conversations with this beautiful woman and she never corrected us. And she's a famous sculptress. She's 2 apartments in Paris. Her sons like live in Spain. We had so many great conversations about art and life. Tell me how Taine relates. Why is Taine being brought up? Not that we ruined her Tupperware.
We definitely ruined her Tupperware and threw it out because we were so embarrassed we couldn't get the smell out of. Anyway, it's fine. And then we met her neighbor, and he's like, her name isn't Taine, it's Tyne. And the reason why I bring up Tyne is like one of the last days that we had a conversation, and she was like, none of my friends know we don't talk about our work like that. And I think it was surprising for us because a lot of the way that we're asked to define ourselves is like, oh, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm an improv person, I'm a stand-up comedian. Like that is required of our job to like throw yourself so fully into it that that becomes your personhood. And even I'm sure like if I were Tyne/Tiny, I would want to tell her like, hey, I'm having like, my work is happening at this gallery and you should come see it or don't or whatever. And she was just like, no, we don't. That's not why we're friends. And I just like that is how I feel when I'm asked that question. It's like that's not my identity. It's something that I do and that I'm passionate about, but it's not my identity. And the idea of identity is, if it is and should be very multifaceted and ever changing. And I think we fall into that a lot where it's like, I'm an executive. And then, like, what if you get fired?
Yeah.
Or like Andrea Gibson, like, I'm the poet laureate and she just passed away because she had a horrific battle with cancer. It's like we are human beings. There's so many parts of who we are. And that's why I'm insecure answering the question. Also, I'm like not as successful or where success is also a construct.
Which we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about, because no, I'm with you, Flan. I think that Tyne is such a great example of that too. Because even the first day we got there, she was like making dinner for one of her gentleman friends.
Her gentleman friend.
I think it was just a gentleman friend. I don't know. It seemed innocent enough.
I just think the way you said that was hilarious. My dad always says like my lady friend. And I'm like, why do you have to say lady friend? Like that's why do you say girlfriend? But I thought about it. I was like, it's because he's not dating a girl. He's dating a lady. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting. But yeah, I mean, in so many of the conversations that we had with her, yeah, it was a lot about, I think, more values based, right? Like we had a whole conversation about Americans versus the French. And I was like, wow, like the way she would talk about her sons and life and like art and her interests, it was very, very values based. And I think at one point you and I said like, wow, it's like we feel like a lot of the French people that we'd met felt so positive. And she's like, no, I don't feel that way. She's like, I feel like we're very like realist. Like we're very just like do the thing. Like it's cut and dry. It's real. She's like, you guys seem so positive and like dreamy and whatever. So should we bring Tyne on the podcast?
Oh my God. She would love it.
It would be a little hard with the translation because there were multiple times where like tossing the Google Translate back and forth to be able to talk with her didn't hinder the conversation. There was also a French man that we met who lost his phone, like legitimately lost his phone. And he didn't have a phone for like 3 weeks and he was dating someone. And I'm like, did you tell your girlfriend? Like, she's not going to believe you. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, I lost my phone. And I was like, no, you don't get it. Like, if we lost our phone in America, we would run to the nearest like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile store and get another phone the next day.
He's like, no, that's not what I do.
Yeah. He's like, she'll believe me. Like, I lost my phone and it's been 3 weeks. Yeah. And I'm like, no, like if you were in America, she would not believe you.
I think okay, this is like a hot take. I think because we as Americans are so like driven by capitalism, we're so driven by the American dream that we lose sense of who we are and our character beyond how we make money. And I just think it's an incredibly dangerous thing because unless you're a billionaire or you've inherited a zillion dollars and, everyone is going to have ups and downs of money in their life. And if that is how you identify your happiness and your personhood is going to be affected by money. And like, why would you want that? Like, why not have it be affected by like the people who love you and your friends and your relationships and your safety and your environment? Like all of that is really, really important. And especially for us who make art, I don't think a lot of good art comes out of people who are just like, I'm just doing my art. You actually have to go out and live your life. There are a lot of people who are like, you have to sacrifice everything for this career. You have to be all in. And I'm like, No, you don't. If you're all in, you're not sleeping, you're not working out, you're not seeing friends, you're not making relationships that then could facilitate your career later down the line. If you don't have those relationships, how are you going to build anything?
Yeah, it's so funny, Flan, because you and I came up in the industry. We were very young, like, young, like what, 17, 18, 19-year-old girls. And there was so much like brutal ideas of what you were supposed to do in order to be successful. And the amount of times I heard, if you have a plan B, like just leave. If you want to do
Just do the
anything
plan
else,
B.
yeah, like get the hell out of here. Like this is going to be so hard. You have to be so all in, so dedicated. If you don't want it bad enough, the girl next to you does. Like there was so much fear. You better show up to the table read because people get fired at table reads and like be the best. Like it was so much fear. And then I remember sitting during COVID, and this is after years of you and I like giving our all, doing the most,
Really sacrificing so much of our lives.
sacrificing so much.
The minute I would get an audition, my entire day was gone. It was like, oh my God, I have to do my hair. I have to like depuffy my face. I have to do my makeup. And it's like, never once was somebody like, we want you to show up as you, as the most you can be. And that's what's interesting and that's what's beautiful. And I think the industry has changed quite a bit where we're actually championing that. Thank God. But it's not, it's still kind of like I think we're a little bit programmed still to think that way. Like I showed up with my hair and makeup done today because I'm going to be on camera. And there's a level today that I'm like, I'm nervous because I'm on camera. Like, and I know you're used to it. I haven't done this in a long time. I haven't been on camera in a long time.
I think to that point, Flan, is like I was sitting in this free workshop that the Blacklist was doing. 'Cause how so many people were trying to do free workshops at that time just because we were all sitting at home. And this one guy in the series of workshops that they were doing, I think he was like an agent or a manager, and he was talking about some of the new writers that he had picked up. And he was like, yeah, like no offense, the reason I picked up all of these different writers that I did recently was because, like, yes, they are a writer, but like they do this and they do that. And like they have these full lives outside of writing. So their writing is so interesting because they are so interesting. And he's like, I'm not that interested in like the like quote unquote Hollywood people who it's like describing exactly what we had done the last decade of our lives. And I remember I felt like sideswept by a bus. And like you hear it more now, like if you listen to any podcast about acting or writing or voiceover, like that is much more common where they're like, live your life, be interesting. Like, we want to know you. Like, that's much more celebrated now than I think it used to be. But I remember being like, what the heck? Like, what now? You know what I mean? What are you supposed to do? I was like, we were trying to be like good little soldiers to make it happen for ourselves. And he's not wrong, right? He's absolutely not wrong. I think if I looked at myself 5 years ago and looked at how much life I've lived and the different decisions that I've made now, I feel like I'd be able to write a way more interesting script now because of the life that I've lived in those 5 years.
It's not about write what you know. It's about have human experiences, feel feelings, notice beautiful things that happen in other movies and connect that to things that you connect with. Make a statement, do your job of like, this is the message that I'm passionate about. If you're plugged into the wider world in that way, you can't go wrong. Like it's literally about being plugged in. Like you can still live in LA and still do all the Hollywood shit, but that doesn't mean you're not going to like be in a marriage and like have to go through the ups and downs of that. Like I do with my husband all the time. And like that doesn't mean that you're not gonna like live randomly in a different place and be nomadic and be, a parent or have challenges or deal with sickness or whatever the universal human experience is. What we're basically saying is don't cut yourself off from that because your take on the human experience is your voice. That is your voice. That's what we're looking for in scripts is voice and perspective.
I think like what you're describing too, Flan, is like having just a lot of curiosity about yourself, about the world around you, like letting yourself follow that curiosity into other things and being like flexible and free in that to then bring that back to the structure of a screenplay or the structure of a script or
the structure of an audition. Yeah. Why are we not like, you and I have been to a lot of acting classes and it's like, here's how to book the job. Like, here's how to stand so your face can look, yeah. And, here's how to look hot. For me, I always got the feedback of like, you're not leading and you're not the quirky best friend and we don't know where to put you. So what are you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm the grown up version of the girl from 8th grade. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but that is the special thing that I bring to, I'm a person. I think the reason why we stopped getting that advice was because the industry changed. We didn't have network shows that were like, you either have big boobs and you're blonde and you're so skinny, like unimaginably skinny. You're, curvy and you're the funny best friend. Like that stopped being the prerogative. We got shows like Fleabag. We got shows that like portray normal. Like we want to watch. This is why reality TV is so successful. We want to watch real people on TV. We just want to watch it.
Think about reality TV, it's so messy. Like, that's why we love it, right? Like, The Real Housewives or Love is Blind or Love Island or even The Amazing Race. Like, there's so much messiness. And part of it is messy because of, like, in The Amazing Race, sure, they're doing things that are pushing them out of their comfort zone, but sometimes it's the people. It's like how that team communicates or how, like, it's so messy.
Even in a show like, I was watching Euphoria the other day because I'm trying to write in this like teen voice and whatever, but they're all beautiful. Like every single person on that show is just like hot. And oh my God, I was watching the scene between Hunter Schafer and Jacob Elordi. And as I was watching it, I felt this overwhelming sense of dread and darkness in the way that Jacob Elordi was approaching Hunter Schafer. It made me terrified. It made me, this is getting a little political, but I feel like that's how it feels in America right now, especially for like trans folks and anyone being targeted by this administration. It's just this feeling of like something is hovering over you and all you want to do is be at that party. Hunter Schafer just walked through the first, she doesn't know anybody. He's screaming like, who knows this girl? Who knows her here? And like, that's actually like, I feel like that's happened to me before where I've been in a social situation and everybody's like, who are you? Why are you here? And she actually says, do you want to hurt me? Do you want to hurt me? And then she cuts her own arm. And that's what makes them like step back. That's messy. And it's beautiful and it's real. That sort of fear and dread is so real. And we need that element in a show for it to work. It's not about not being beautiful, it's about being honest. And I think there's a lot of sitcoms from back in the day, like the husband is just like gross, like, like make me a sandwich. And this wife is just like so hot and like half his age and like walking in, like, hey, honey, laugh track. Like that's not real. And so we don't like seeing that anymore.
No. And to your point about Euphoria, I think I've watched the majority of the first I might have even finished the first season. That show gives me such bad anxiety. And it's part of what you're describing. It's because you are feeling what they're feeling. Like the way that the cinematography is and the lighting and the way that it's written. And there's so much depth, right? Into like what it is that they are showing. And yeah, and it gives me anxiety. And I was at a bonfire in Miami, and a 50-something-year-old man, Eddie, who doesn't talk a lot, and very quiet actually. That is the most I've ever heard him talk was a conversation about Euphoria and how he essentially experiences the same feeling I do.
Oh yeah, it should make you feel that way. But I think we need authenticity. Like obviously that show is not authentic to every kid that age's experience. And I think a lot of people have that feeling of like, that's not what it's really like. It's kind of supposed to be heightened in that way. Like it's supposed to feel like a drug trip in a way, but that is kind of the experience of a lot of young people. So like don't write it off just because that, and I get it. There's a lot of hypersexualization. It's a complex issue in Euphoria. I've had a lot of conversations about it, but I think there are pieces of it that are just stunning. So I don't know.
I think that's part of it too, Flan, is like art, as we know, is very, very subjective. And I think it's meant like certain shows are meant to make you feel good. Certain shows are meant to make you think. Certain shows are meant to stun you and shock you. And so it's like, yeah, this show is not meant to be like, ooh, yay, warm and fuzzy. And like the world is a great, beautiful, big place. No, it's like that is not what they're trying to do. And speaking of writing, because I feel like I know a considerable amount of actors who want to write, have wanted to write. And I think it's because they feel stifled sometimes with the opportunities they're getting in their acting career. And writing seems like it will maybe provide them some freedom with their creativity. And so I think that to give them more personal control over creativity, their work, their narrative, the characters they play. And I think that there's this divide of understanding structure and story. And we know multiple people who it's like they kind of go two different routes. It's like, I don't need structure. I'm just going to write from the heart and then make a movie of it. And it's going to be great. Or people who are like, structure, this is like the gospel. It has to look like this. And it can be very overwhelming. And I think you are someone who's written a ton of different screenplays and pilots and animation shorts and shows. Like if someone is wanting to start learning storytelling and how to write, what should they do?
You're going to hate my answer so much.
Go for it.
I say, go for it. I say, write the damn thing. I don't think that's what you expected that I was going to say because I bitch about it a lot where I do some coverage and I'm like, this person misspelled this word throughout the whole script. I think there's a difference. Okay, so you're just starting out. There's a lot of stuff to learn. There's a lot of scripts to read. There's a lot of movies to study. There's a lot of people to talk to. There's a lot of coverage you might want to get. You're just starting out. You're learning a new thing. There's zero shame in that. Like, we should not be punching down to these young writers. We should be pushing them up, being like, when I was your age, and I was very, very lucky to have a lot of mentors who read my work from an early stage and said to me the words of, "This is not the last good idea you will have," which, means you're beginning. You have a good idea. You're going to have more. So keep going. The majority, even writers who are working, the majority of stuff we write is practice. So holding too strongly to like anything we're working on doesn't really make sense. I'm in the process of like a zillion million rewrites of this feature because my manager is amazing and he wants it to be the best thing it can be. And so we've been drilling down on it for a really long time. And every time I go into the draft, I get all these notes and I print them out and I'm like, okay, one by one, how are we going to address this as a bigger project? Like, and a lot of it comes down to like tone. And that's the kind of thing, like, you can study the tone of other projects. You need to really understand what a tone is in order to like have that threaded through your entire project. So, to me, it's about doing a lot of intake so you can understand the emotion behind a tone. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like a deeper level of knowing. All to say is that you are always going to be learning your entire career. I've been doing this for a decade, which is not even long compared to a lot of other writers. And I still find myself learning when I do it. So that's one component. The second component is there are certain lessons that are going to help you get something sold and made potentially. Like, maybe you're going to write a script that is like so unstructured and it's going to be the breakthrough, like maybe. But most likely there are certain like, and I hate this, but like industry standards or whatever, like length and the way you actually physically write a script that are going to help you. And so it's a question of, do you want to learn that stuff first before you start writing? Or do you want to start writing and learn that while you write? Or do you want to go back and adjust, if you want, adjust things once you've already learned? And I say this to say, I am constantly going back to old scripts and adjusting them. Like, I wrote a 3-part biopic and I went back and completely changed it into like an ongoing series, like a limited series. And I spent so much time on both versions. And it was just the right thing to do. And like, I think the idea of like, oh, if you structure it perfectly, you're never going to have to edit. It's like, yes and no.
Yeah. You might not have to edit the structural pieces of it. I mean, I feel like editing is just such a big part of the process that, like, you have to. Yeah.
I'm never going to tell somebody to not write the thing. I think write the thing. Like, if anything, it's practice. Don't send something that's not ready to your one connection and be like, this is my chance and expect it to work. Like, it might not work. You need to treat your big industry connections as such. And, I think there's a certain etiquette to how to do these things, like follow up and be respectful and all of these things. And I think the piece that your question addresses is like, I do think there are writers who send their scripts at very early iterations without peer feedback and without industry feedback. And I do think that that's a mistake. We, as people in this industry and as readers and as people who've done coverage, you don't want your idea to be shut down by like a lack of energy that you've put into it. Like, we all want to see the work that you've put in. We want to see that you've taken notes. And I end up reading a lot of writers who don't know how to take notes and they get a little upset. And it's just like, the only reason someone's giving you notes is because they want to potentially add to the project. And you can be like, that's not for me, but thank you. And I think that that piece sometimes is missing. Like, there's a lot of ego and hurt feelings involved. And I think as much as you can separate yourself from that, you're only going to do yourself a service because, it is, again, you might have to do a zillion drafts of your feature. My manager, God love him, Nick Terry, World Builder Entertainment, he's my love. But like, he will give me notes and then he will text me and be like, I really believe in you and I think you're such a wonderful writer. Like, he knows to remind me of that because he knows that I can be sensitive sometimes. All of us can. And I think that's part of it, but also know that you are going to have so many great ideas in your life. And that's beautiful. You can keep doing this for as long as you want. And the actual act of doing the writing is the art piece. All the rest of it is trying to sell something. I want you all to do the writing and full stop.
Full stop. I also think a nugget in their plan that was really helpful is that learning how to take feedback and then learning how to decipher what feedback is useful and what feedback is not for you is such a skill, whether you're a writer, an actor, an entrepreneur, just like being able to learn how to take feedback and then learn how to be like, what should I apply and what could be really helpful or useful and what needs to like hit the trash bin is huge.
And a lot of that is learning how to trust yourself. And I think that, you know, there's projects. I write a lot of history, and no one, what I've learned, unfortunately, is that no one cares sometimes. Not all the time, sometimes. And I'm like, how can you not care? These people fought against fascism and everyone's like, yeah, I want to watch The Girlfriend, which I just loved. I just binged the shit out of The Girlfriend. Oh my God, Robin Wright is a gem. But yeah, like I get it. Like I completely get it. But I needed to write that project. Like deep inside me needed until it was for me. And you know, someday if I ever become a big deal, I have 30 scripts in a drawer right here, not literally, but I've been collecting them for years. So that's the goal. But if not, like the actual art is kind of enough for me, at least at this stage. Obviously, I would love to make my manager, maybe myself, a ton of money. Like he deserves that. And yeah, I mean, I would love to. I think, you know, the reason why I don't just, you know, do theater, because I love being on the stage more than anything. And I'm not saying that you can't make a giant impact as a theater actor, but I do think you need to be at a certain echelon because if not, you're performing to one audience and that audience is only going to be, you know, 500 people or whatever. And maybe you do, you know, 30 shows. Like there's a limit. But if you make a TV show or if you make a movie, that extends to the whole world. Like the message and the thing you care about spreads, and that kind of impact is one that I am interested in because I do believe in the things that I believe in, and I want to get that message out there, like we all do.
Yeah, and I think impact is a word that has come up constantly for me this year. I think in so much of the beginning of our careers, it was just that excitement and adrenaline and trying to like push and pull and make things happen. And then you become more of an adult and you're like, okay, yes to that. And what's the meaning behind it all? I think in that plan, it's a great segue into one of the questions about your definition of success and it changing from when you started this career path to kind of who you are now and where you are now.
I have problems with the word success, not because of what, like the word means something specific, but I think as a populace, we look at success like, what do you think of when you think of success? Money. You think of money. I also want to acknowledge, like, I come from a certain amount of privilege. And, like, you know, the reason we have our house is because we had help from family. Like, I don't want to gloss over that because that's a huge element. It's rich for me to be like, oh, I don't care about money. Like, that's not what this is at all. Like, you know, that's part of why I started another business because I would like to support my family. And I don't want to put that much pressure on my writing and my art. I want the writing and the art to be enough. I don't want it to have to be it have to be the thing that is like feeding us. But, you know, related to the fact that I don't want my art to be the thing that is getting me that monetary success, I want success to be found from my art and it's separate from money. And I want success to be found from my relationship and it's separate from this like idea of this is what marriage looks like. And I want success, you know, to be healthy in my body and have longevity and have it be separate from she's skinny. And I want success to be like, I found a way. Oh my God, this really cuts deep right now, but I want success to be that we live in this house safely and then it doesn't need to look a certain way. I want success to be separate from perfectionism. And I think that the pursuit of success, what we are doing today is what we are doing with our lives. So if I'm, you know, sitting in an office, like hating my life, being like, oh, someday I'll be able to retire. That's what you're doing with your life. Like the majority of your life is going to be in office. And again, I say this coming from a completely privileged situation. Like I figured out a way to make this like weird piecemeal life work where I'm making money from random things. And I'm also doing my art. I've had, again, like family support where I've been able to do that to a certain degree. In the pursuit of success, we should be thinking about what do we want our last days of our lives to look like, which could, be when we're 80 or it could be in 2 weeks. We don't know. So we need to be in constant pursuit of those elements that we want. And I think it's so funny. I think about this a lot. I think most people would say kind of the same thing. Like, Maddie, what do you want to happen when you die? What is your goal when you die for your life to look like?
What's interesting too, Flan, about there's two things that I think are really poignant about what you said. And one of them is this quote, how we're spending our time is how we're spending our life. Precisely, like what we are doing right now, like it's happening, we're living it, like this is it. These are like the moments that when we're looking back and you're thinking about your life, like they define what that experience looked like. And I think another great point that you brought up when you're like, because I think instantly when you say at the end of your life, you think old. Like I think I'm like 98, And then you said, but it could be in 2 weeks. Like we all know we will not be here at some point in time. And we all know we don't know when that'll be. And yet I feel like we sometimes operate like we have all the time in the world to do the things that we want and be the person. But yeah, I think to your point about all of it, Flan, is like when you really think about like the brass tacks of if it was all said and done, there actually someone asked me this question recently, like if I was kind of like sitting on my deathbed, what would be like the most disappointing thing if it didn't happen? So I think in collecting that and thinking about the question you just asked, I think that for me personally, if I feel like I don't go boldly and courageously after like all of the things that I want to do and all the experiences I want to do, I will have regret. Like I will regret that I did not just like do the damn thing and I gave into my fear or my hesitation more than I gave into like, you might not get there and that's okay. And just go be bold and like, yeah, just like fuck them all and just do it. You know what I'm saying? And just like listen to that inner ignited like fire inside of me. That's like one piece personally for me. And then when I really think about the things that are important to me, so much of it's about like the people that I love. Am I a good friend? Am I a good partner? Do I help the people I love feel empowered to do the same? Like that to me, that will feel like a very successful life if I'm looking at the end of it to be like, wow, the people that came into my life, like in a intimate way, I was a source of helping them feel like so authentically seen and heard and helping empower whatever it is that they want to do, knowing that they always have like a friend who has their back to help them in whatever they want or need. That would be like successful to me.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people say. It's like, I want to be surrounded by my family and I want to have been a positive influence in their lives. I want my friends to be there and I want them to have been my friends for years. And I want to have left this place better off than it was potentially. Like everyone says that exact thing. And then we don't live by those values.
How fucked up is that?
Well, and like we all do it. Like I do it to a certain extent too. But like, I think about a lot of the executives that I've known in my life and it feels almost like their whole purpose, so many of them have been wonderful and lovely, but some of them, it feels like their whole purpose is just to like stomp other people down. Like, why? Like, what is your goal? Like, again, not to get political, but when Donald Trump passed away, is he going to think good? Like, I did good to people?
I mean, I was about to say he's a Gemini, but you're also a Gemini. My husband's a Gemini. My other best friend Olivia is a Gemini. I love me some Geminis. I mean, probably, Flan, don't you think? Probably, yeah. I mean, you have to think about it's so funny. I feel like it's like a strength and a weakness of mine is like I always try to see every side to every story. I'm so not a black and white thinker. I'm like all the color, like all the complexities, all the curiosity. And I think that I would have to, and I don't know him, I don't know anything about the people he surrounds himself with, but I think he will be like,
The villain is the hero of their own story, right? But if you interview every person in this country, especially people who are about to lose their healthcare, or actually, no, we're really not losing our healthcare. Our healthcare is about to like double in price if things go a certain way. Maybe this is the experience of every president, every person in power, because there's always going to be people that are negatively influenced by your time in office. I don't want that. I don't want to be at the end of my life. And like, here's a great example. One of my best friends, lost her mom at a really, really young age. Her mom was very young. And She passed away from cancer and she was an oncologist and spent her entire life fighting for people with cancer and like making all these crazy strides in breast cancer awareness and not even awareness, like the technology and science behind it, like crazy advancement. There's not one person who knew her who would ever say, she made my life worse. In fact, it's the opposite. Every single person who encountered her was like, my life was so much better because I knew her. And that my grandpa was like that. And I think that's what I want from life. I want people to think back on who I was and be like, oh, my life was so much better because we connected. I think that sounds very like self wrapped up, but what if we all lived our lives that way? I just think it would be peace. That's what I think of as success.
I think that even conversations like this and stuff are helpful for that, Flame, because I think it deepens our own personal awareness of like, how can we change the actions that we're doing, which is ultimately the only thing we have control over. And again, the word that keeps coming up, and it's been coming up to me a lot in this whole conversation, I feel like it's the through line of it is impact. I don't know if you know Tim Tebow. He's a football player. He's now a motivational speaker. And I was thinking about him randomly. This is a couple weeks ago because there was a football game that he had. He was very religious and he used to write John 3:16 on his like little eye patches. And long story short, there was this game where all of the stats were like 3:16 for like all, it was like, it's crazy. I'll have to tell you about it. So anyways, I was like, what the hell is Tim Tebow doing now? Like, that's what I was like thinking of. And I went to his Instagram and his little bio, all it said was like, live a life of impact. And I was like, because I was like literally having a whole conversation with my dad about impact like right before. And then I was like, that's it. It's like living a life. Like, what impact do you want to have? And what do you need to do to have that be the experience and the mission of the time here?
Yeah. And we are best friends, obviously. When we connect, it's not about you giving me something or us creating something. It's about being available and listening. I have a friend who is this amazing poet. Let me grab her book so I can
Shout her out.
I have it like earmarked, but it's called Forged in Fire, Held in Love by my friend Nomad the Poet. As a person, her name is Selah, and she uses this word and it's Selah, and it literally means pausing for reflection. And when we show up fully for each other, it has to be Selah. It can't be about, well, here's what I want from you, and here's what I want to create. Not all the time. Sometimes it can be about creation, but it's not about productivity. It's about being present in the now. And I think so much of our industry is trying to convince us that everything is productivity. And if we're not doing productivity, we're not doing the thing and we're not successful. And sometimes I think the biggest impact we can have on ourselves, our friends, our family members, the younger generation, our art is Selah. And I try and live by that, especially as someone with really debilitating anxiety sometimes that I take medicine for. But I have to sit with Selah for like a lot of the day. Not a lot of the day, but like, it's the same kind of thing. Like you meditate, I do it in a certain way. I like to fold laundry. I like to clean. I like to make art. I like to paint.
You know what that is considered, Flannery? That is considered task-oriented self-care.
Yeah. And I know there's like a lot of pushback around the term of self-care because it's been commodified, but the idea of caring for my own reflection, that is what I try and do every day in order to function. And it's not about like, I do a lot of painting. It's not about the result of the painting. I do a lot of singing and it's not about the result of the singing. Actually, my husband makes the result happen because he takes my voice and he edits it and then, he sends it off to a commercial. I don't do it because it's on a commercial. I do it because I grew up singing and I love it. And I can't believe that I'm married to somebody who has opportunities for me to sing. Like that's nuts. And it's really, really, it feels almost spiritually aligned. The one piece that I'm really passionate about, I'm passionate about a lot of things, but like I'm passionate about in this 2025 moment, talking about pillars of society and how, especially Genevieve is pointing out that those pillars aren't there. Like they're just building their house without a structure. I feel that I've been doing the same thing for a really long time. Like I left college and like that was a pillar. And like I got married during the pandemic and my parents had not met my husband and we moved to Europe. Like there's all these ideas like what is parenthood going to look like? We don't feel comfortable having biological children. So what does parenthood look like in this world? Like it's the career of like, here's the steps of how to have a career. Like I don't follow those steps. I spend my day doing my writing and then I go and drive a carpool for these kids that I adore. And I get, so much inspiration in life from hanging out with them. It's fantastic. And yes, I don't make a lot of money. I hope to someday make more money. But right now, that's what I'm doing with my life. That's what I'm doing with my day, and that's what I'm doing with my life. And that's pretty grand. I some women, my husband and I make dinner and we tend to our garden and we go to screenings and we hang out. And it's a beautiful life. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think the only way I've been able to get this life is by refusing to rely on those pillars and being honest with myself and with everyone else about that. I think those pillars are kind of bullshit.
No, for sure, Flan. I feel like that's part of it, right? I feel like so much of life is, and maybe it's like our generation, like the unraveling of that. It's like us trying so hard to be like in line with the pillars and then being like, wait, that is not equating to happiness, the impact I want to make. Is it even stuff I believe? Like, where is that belief even mine? Or is it something that I picked up along the way and I've been operating in that? And so I think so much of it is trying to figure out, like, excavating it all to be in like what really matters here. And then how is that going to dictate what I do? And I think in everything you just described too, I've also found sometimes it's like the simple shit that is the most beautiful and makes me the happiest. Like our place right now is 2 blocks away from the ocean, and even though it's starting to get a little bit colder, whenever I go and just spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes just standing there and just like listening to the waves and watching the sun come up, or I'm like, it is the simplest thing. And I'm like, wow, this is magical. Being present here in this moment, cooking. Yeah.
I was just binge watching Big Little Lies because I'm, writing a thriller. And there's this moment, like all the shit that's happening, like all the stress that she's going through. And there's this moment when Reese Witherspoon looks out to the ocean and she's just like gazing at it with the biggest eyes. Her little girl comes up and is like, "What are you thinking about?" Like expecting her to be like, "Oh, the drama and oh, my affair." Not that she would say that to her kid, but, and she just says, "The ocean is so vast." And that to me is that moment of Selah, like taking that time to reflect. That's the exact space where you look at those pillars and you're like, oh, that's not for me. I don't think I would have the relationship that I have if I had been like, oh, this is what a marriage looks like. I need this. I need the big ring. I left my wedding ring at my brother's house. You can see how much the look of things matter to me. Like, I'm frustrated that we live in a society that's like via Instagram. This is what parenthood looks like. Look at my gorgeous baby. And I brought this baby here. And this is my house. And this is my dog. And this is my husband. And it's like we are now living for a grid. We are now living for some sort of approval. This is a life in which we are being watched and we are no longer present in our actual lives if we're living it for something else. And I am deeply afraid of where we're going. And I'm deeply afraid for the next generation.
Well, and I think too, Flan, eventually, and it's why when you hear people have like midlife crises or whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's because it's like that wake up moment of like, oh my gosh, have I been doing this for everything externally? And I'm finally tapping into this internal thing. And it's like, holy shit.
I think it's especially for firstborn women in the family. We are taught, I said this in therapy the other day with my husband. I was like, because we have an issue every time someone comes to visit, I go nuts. I'm like so anxious and I'm like, oh, everything needs to be perfect. And I told him, I was like, as the firstborn woman, and even like, well, my mom wouldn't have people over if she was so anxious about the way the house looked. I've internalized that.
Midwestern moms, man. Yeah.
So we're already taught like, I mean, don't even get me started on like the industry of makeup and hair and whatever, like the gaze of women. But we were already conditioned to believe that our worth comes from how we look and how we present to the world. And then you have social media on top of that. And the next generation is being taught by us. Like we're 2 generations ago that my grandmother just did everything. She raised all the kids. She fed everybody. She dealt with my grandfather who had serious mental health issues. And I was also the generation that fought in a horrendous war. Like we are not that new into this era of like knowing and wokeness. And so I think Gen Z is doing like an amazing job because they're the first generation to be like, fuck those pillars. No, I'm gonna do things my own way. I'm not wearing low-rise jeans. The other day, I bought a pair of low-rise jeans because they were at the Goodwill, and I was like, "These are my size, and I kinda wanna buy them." And I, for once, have the body that you were supposed to have to wear low-rise jeans. And as, like, a reclaiming of the low-rise jeans, I bought the low-rise jeans, and I'm shook at how uncomfortable they are. Why did we wear that for so long? And I love that Gen Z is like, I already have to do everything. I'm also going to be comfortable while I do it. And I'm not going to dress for a gaze that I don't even want. I'm not dressing for male consumption.
That's the thing, Plan, is like I think so much of not so much of what I've talked about in therapy, but like an underbelly of it is the worthiness, I guess, is a word that can kind of encompass it all of being worthy, even though you are just being. Like I don't have to do anything to achieve a state of worthiness, but that's hard because I'll be like, was I a good enough partner? Did I turn things in on time? Like there's so much like, oh, no, no,
Yeah.
no, I gotta like do it all. And then I'm worthy of like the unconditional love. That's not true. And I think even you talked about our phone calls or phone conversations earlier, like part of the beauty is the availability, the presence, the spaciousness. There's no, what are you giving me? What am I giving you? Like, that's not the exchange. That's not what's gathered from that exchange. And so I think to your point, Gen Z is operating in a way of like inherent worthiness already. Talk about some red flags, girl. The question was, what was like one of the hardest or most difficult lessons that you've learned? And you said, don't call red flags pink.
Yeah. And I think, well, sometimes it can really cost you like your safety. And I think that in that case, run right now. Get out of that situation. Like if someone is giving you vibes that are they're not going to protect your safety or your rights or whatever it looks like you don't need that person for sure.
Are you talking about like romantic relationships or like a manager or anybody?
Any of it. And you and I had totally encountered those people. And I think, yeah, of course, you and I got into the industry before the Me Too movement. Like there were moments when you and I were not safe.
Yeah, 1000%. There's multiple people like they should probably all be in jail, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
some of them are. Those are red flags. Those are red flags. But when you call a red flag pink, that's when it becomes fuzzy because you're changing what's true. You're receiving that differently. So, for example, there have been things that have been said to me straight up to my face that are some of the most despicable, offensive things that you could ever hear. And that person showed me and said to me exactly who they are. And then they followed that up with like actually treating me in the way that their words represented, which is like a complete lack of respect. And I sat there and took it from like everybody my whole 20s. And that is terrifying. But I was taught to behave that way. I was taught that it was polite to speak to people, that that was what I owed them. I have men all the time stop me on the street, in the store. Hey, can I ask you something? Hi, I need your help all the time. And you know what I say? No, thank you. And I walk away. And they will probably be like, wow, what a bitch. And I'm like, wow, I kept my own time. And I spent my entire 20s giving away my time to people who did not treat me with basic human respect. And so, what I say when don't make a red flag pink, what I mean is protect your own time and energy because people will take it, especially in this industry, because everybody, that is, time is money. I actually think when you're a young person in this industry, it is less about time and more about emotional latching. Like there's a lot of narcissism, right? And narcissists need a supply. They need a supply. And guess who they're going to latch onto? A sweet sweetie. Me and you. Kind people. They love that because we will be like, oh, well, they're just going through a lot and they had a rough
We're
upbringing
very
and they're
understanding. We fall easily into a caretaker role. We're very empathetic, giving. Yes. No, everything you just described about your 20s, Flannery. I'm like, yeah, same, same.
it's so liberating to no longer have that in our lives.
Absolutely.
And I gotta be honest, like a big part of that was just realizing that the only way to let in the people in our lives that are supposed to be in our lives, that are good people, that care about us, that want to champion us, that want to push us up, is by keeping the people who want to do the opposite out. We only have so much time and we only have so much energy. And the only way that you and I we're able to connect and become best friends is because both of us shed a thing in that period of time that we didn't need. And so there was space for us to go on this vacation and be together. My husband only came into my life when I started being brutally honest and true to who I was and brave, putting very, very strict. Well, first of all, being very honest with people in my life, really hearing who they are in their words and in their actions, and seeing it and refusing to call the red flags pink, and putting up a boundary, and then being very honest with my husband about what I actually wanted. And only in that experience was he able to commit to a relationship, because I said specifically, I like you a lot, but I'm not willing to date you if we are not committed to each other and this is not a relationship. And we broke up for a little while. And then I proceeded to drink too much at Sundance and yell at him in a really mean way. And I was like, how dare you step away from this beautiful relationship? We have something great. And it was that honesty and lack of decorum that brought him to his, not to his senses, but that ended up him coming back, 2 weeks later and being like, I want to be with you. And I realized it when you yelled at me. The lesson is yell at people.
The lesson is yell the deepest, most authentic parts of your truth to the person you care about the most. No, Jake and I have a similar story. It wasn't from yelling, but it was like a similar story where I called him. I had never like called him on the phone before. And I called him and was kind of like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I want. When am I going to see you? Like, I just laid it all out. And he said that was like the switch, because it was just like bold and clear. And it was like, oh, okay.
We spend so much of our lives being afraid to say the thing. And I think, especially with women, we're told our whole lives be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be small, be thin. The very first sin was a woman who ate a piece of apple. Like, think about that. We are told our whole lives to be quiet and small, or else we're a bitch. And I'm like, I want to hear your voice so fucking loud. And I want to hear exactly how you feel. Because that's the only way I can really tell who you are. Maybe you're not a good person and you don't make me feel loved and held. And like, because you were honest, I saw it easier. But it was all the subterfuge. It was all the narcissism, it was all the pulling in, through various tactics of like, I need to get my supply, so I'm going to pull you in. It's not being honest about who you are. It's from our perspective and from the abuser's perspective, like, we all need to be honest. And that's been a reckoning with a lot of relationships that I've had, is I've tried to see people for who they really are. And now there's been like a serious boundary setting in my life, and that's been hard. And I still miss the good times with a lot of those people, but they're not worth the abuse. So
No.
yeah.
Oh, preach, girl. Preach. Last question, because the podcast is called Get Messy. So you can take this question however you want to. What's the messiest thing about you?
Everything. Every single thing.
No, I love it. I've heard a lot of answers and I've never heard someone just be like, the whole thing. That's so funny.
Oh, I thought that would be obvious.
No, I've heard there's some similar trends. I would say that some people answer, and then some people it's like off the wall, like very unique to them. But I've never heard someone be like, everything.
Yeah, I don't have a single thing in my life that isn't a mess. Like, and I say that with love. Like, it's like owning a house. Like, things break down all the time. Like, it's not always palatable. It's not always pretty, but it's a building of a thing. It's literally a building of a house. Like, I am always trying to build a thing, whether it's like my relationship. A relationship isn't just like, oh wow, we're so happy. Like, you're building a thing together, and people are like, I didn't know it was going to be work. It's like, you can't build something without work. And that's
Right.
everything I do, right? And like, everything's hard. Like, I'm constantly a mess because it's a building site is not clean or palatable. It's a mess.
Whenever you see construction, whether it be in the home, outside of your home, like in Miami, there was a ton of construction when Jake and I lived there. I'm always like, how will this one day, like, not only be the thing, but be like a cleaned up version of it? Because, like you said, it's disastrous, right? There's so much shit thrown everywhere. I'm like, I don't understand. And then it happens, right? You're like, this thing will one day be like presentable and people will live here or work here or whatever. And like all of these random piles of stuff where things will be clean. And it's like hard to imagine.
Yeah, and I think the work you put in is actually important. Like with our landscaping project, we hired a landscaper, and my ideal way of getting things done is to close my eyes and let them do the work. And then I walk outside, I'm like, oh my God, it's done.
Beautiful. Yes.
That's not acceptable in our lives. And if that is the way that you're going about it, you're missing out so much. Like if you're, if you're a parent and you're like, I'm just gonna have the nanny raise them. Like, why be a parent?
Yeah, I don't understand.
The goal of that, it's not just like, oh, then I have a companion when I'm older. No, the whole point is that you're there through the hard times and the good. Like that is the point. And I wouldn't want to just blink and miss out on my entire marriage and go to the place where we suddenly have no conflict. And one, I don't think that place exists, but because we live together and share our lives, like we're not carbon copies of each other.
Cohabitation is no joke.
Yeah. Oh, we're in couples therapy. We're just learning how to negotiate without getting triggered. And it's just tools. You're just learning all the tools you need to be able to like get through today.
That's the thing. That's exactly it. So, but here's the thing with like marriage. You know how some people have very like weird reactions of couples therapy of like, oh, it either means like we're in a disastrous situation or they wait till it's disastrous. And then you're like, yeah, a lot of this is simple tools that take a lot of time learning and then learning how to implement and then feeling comfortable implementing. But like, it's like, why we've never been married before. How would we know what to do?
No. And we haven't really always, I don't know, different for your parents. I haven't seen a good marriage in my life. Can't name one, really, from when I was a child. And yeah, even like, my grandparents who stayed married forever, it's like, I know she felt so unloved her entire marriage. And like when he was dying, she was like, I think he might have had a second family. Like that's what I have seen. Yeah, I don't want that. So what do I want? And then how do I grow in that situation? I think we particularly need therapy because of that, because like we don't know the rules. Again, it's messy, but that is the point. And yeah, I don't want a non-messy life. And I think if I did, I definitely wouldn't work in the arts.
Oh my gosh, right?
I would be like an accountant and I would have like a perfect outfit and I would have my nails done. And like some people need that level of control over the messiness. I have just had no other choice but to be messy because we work in the arts and because we have more stability. And so now I've just embraced it in every part of my life. I will say my office is very clean right now. Like it is, I organized all of those drawers. I have like built-ins, organized it. It is not messy. So there's your answer. Oh, wait, you asked the opposite.
Everything but her office, people. This has been amazing. You are a dreamboat. Thank you.
You're a dreamboat. Thanks.
You're the real hero if you've made it this far. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and check out the show notes for any resources or cool info mentioned in today's episode or places to follow along if you want to hang out some more. I'm rooting for you today and always. Stay messy.